How do you use TubeBuddy?
We use it for my tags, like videos, and then through my YouTube descriptions as well.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another post-mortem, post-match reaction analysis off the cuff video from me, LNobbins. Hello, how you doing? Bournemouth 0, Man City 1. On paper, a good win, a good 3 points. Very important 3 points, obviously. We are going to be discussing the result, discussing the storylines from the game, and also discussing the tricky topics and the serious/awkward conversations which need to be discussed as City fans. That's what needs to happen. That's what's going to happen today, as it was against Chelsea. We'll start chronologically. We'll go chronologically, sorry. Hello, Megamind. How you doing? We got Jadon says, nice videos, mate. Thank you so much, Jadon. Feel free to keep your comments coming in the chat. I'll be engaging with you guys so you guys can have your say on the game yesterday and we can have that little dialogue and conversation. Yeah, so let's go chronologically, shall we? A similar theme to what we did with the Chelsea post-mortem game. Let's have some water. Let's start with the lineup, which I thought was very good, very promising. I was a bit concerned because there was no out-and-out left winger, so I was concerned that Foden was going to be shunted out to the touchline as he was against Everton, for example. But to my surprise, a pleasant surprise, 5 seconds in, it was very obvious. It was Núñez left wing, Foden central. So in terms of balance, immediately, let's compare it to what we've seen previously this season. That midfield, that front five, was very, very balanced because you obviously had Haaland, the main striker. You had Foden, another direct player, but then around them, you had Bernardo, more control-based, Kovacic, more control-based, and Núñez, who is a little bit of both, but he's certainly not a player you'd associate with picking up the ball and immediately seeking a forward pass. So it did seem to be a very balanced midfield, and the defence, that back five, that 3-2 shape we built up in, was also very lovely to see. Let me tell you why, because it was Inter Milan treble-winning 3-2 shape. We've only seen that twice in the Premier League this season. Both times it has guarded a clean sheet. That was against Everton and obviously against Bournemouth yesterday. In terms of our individual defenders and our defending specialists, especially out wide in the 1v1 areas, that is by far and away our best back four. That back four likes to defend and are very good at box defending. And Alan here says that back five is our best back five. General Stone says Haaland's looking a little bit rusty after the injury. I have to say Núñez did look okay at left wing. He looked more than okay, to be honest. He looked very good. Yeah, so the lineup I thought was very good. And to be honest, that it had to perform. That team had to perform because the amount of stick and criticism that, from myself included, obviously, Kyle Walker's been getting this season and Julian Alvarez as well. It had to perform. And it did. The first half was one of the best first halves of football I've seen from Man City this season. That's not an exaggeration. The midfield just felt so on it. It's isn't it weird how when you profile your players correctly and put your midfielders into midfield, rather than trying to shove, a Kanji into advanced areas, or you try to shove strikers into midfield, or you shunt your midfielders out wide, isn't it weird how they actually perform and have a fluid way of playing, and actually you're able to garner attacks really easily? So that was really nice to see. And we've only really seen a properly balanced front five this season. A couple times also against Copenhagen for like the first few minutes before Grealish got injured. That was my ideal front five. Obviously, Grealish wasn't fully fit to start, so Nunes had to play. But it was a really promising situation. As I say, a really balanced team. You had options to bring on the bench, like Doku, Kevin De Bruyne, if you needed to change the game. And don't worry, we'll get on to the substitutions. Omar says, Kanji stay at right back. Totally agree. Stones back in the midfield is refreshing, says Cause Cat. Yeah, he was my man of the match. Kumar says, seeing Arsenal yesterday and us. I'm confident in our team, but it'll be very difficult. Yes, Kumar. And towards the end of this video, I'll be touching on what my thoughts are on our title chances and that sort of thing. If you're watching the video, please leave a like on the video, guys. Do it now. Leave a like, please. Helps other people see this stream, helps me grow as a channel. This is my full-time job. So if you're able to help me get the channel bigger just by leaving a like, which is free, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, first half, fantastic. What Bournemouth did, because we knew how Bournemouth were going to play, because this is how they play all season. They go very aggressive, high press with a very aggressive high line. They go man-to-man in their pressing out of a 4-2-3-1 sort of shape. So that was a breath of fresh air for City, because normally we are facing deeper and deeper and deeper defensive lines in the Premier League. So it was fantastic to see that we didn't actually face that for once. It meant that there were spaces to exploit, especially them going man for man. John Stones talked about it in his post-match interview about finding the extra man, finding those overloads, and that's what City did time and time again in that first half. We went very direct to just evade their press. When we baited them into pressing us, that meant that if you just played a long ball into Erling Haaland, he was no doubt going to hold it up well, and then you had willing runners such as Phil Foden, and suddenly you are in through one ball over the top. On the surface, it's hoofball football, but it is planned and it is accurate, and it is devastating when you try to go high press against Man City and give us space. And that's how one of the best chances of the game came about, where the ball was just like floated in directly into Phil Foden. Fantastic first time pass into Haaland, who should do better on his weak foot. But even the goal as well, that was a direct ball by Kovacic of all players into Haaland, who did really well to fend off his man, played it across, tried to take a shot. Foden's in the right position at the right time. And that all came about the directness of the play. And again, that continued. And we should have scored a couple goals in that first half. We were only able to get one, but our performance deserved 2-3 plus goals in that first half. We also limited them to basically no chances. They had like 2 or 3 pop shots from distance. Ederson made it look dramatic, but he was never going to concede those shots from really outside the box, bar some sort of wonder strike. The individual defenders were brilliant. Kanji in those wide areas, Ake in those wide areas. John Stones, Ruben Diaz, that partnership rekindling. Maybe John Stones, is he our best defender, guys? Do we think? Not necessarily based on form. Is he maybe just our best defender generally, because he is fantastic? Nunes did a really good job at the left wing when he's able to run to those spaces, and there were spaces. That's the thing. Bournemouth were always going to give us that space. That's why Nunes played so well against Burnley, and that's why he didn't play well against Everton. Nunes needs space to thrive in, so he's only really useful for these sorts of games, like against a Bournemouth, a Brighton, who are teams who are going to cede some space. And Kovacic as well, shout out him. He was unlucky not to get my man of the match, but John Stones was just John Stones. Thank you so much, Twisty. Love that from you. Why no Grealish lately? Well, he has been injured, Taron, in fairness. We'll get into Doku, don't worry. I have gone bald. I think that means someone's just become a channel member, maybe. So thank you for that, if that is the case. Danny Moore, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm now Fraudiola. This is my Fraudiola filter, in case you're confused. Haaland's overall game was excellent. just one miss. Yeah, and that's the thing, and we'll touch on Haaland and his performance, and actually how it was actually quite a good performance from Haaland, just not the finishing that was required. So yeah, first half, fantastic. John Stones was brilliant. Interestingly, he was played at left centre half. I will be doing an analysis video on my YouTube, around a 10-minute analysis video. You know those videos if you know this channel. So I'll get into my thoughts on why Stones was played slightly out of position, left centre half and left central midfield rather than right centre back, right central midfield. I've got some thoughts on why that may have been the case. But yeah, first half, I don't really have any complaints about it. I thought it was great. Thank you, Si. Yes, as I say, if you guys are enjoying the post-mortems, which I'll either do the day after a game, or if the game's early enough, then maybe directly after. But for the most part, I think it makes more sense to go the day after, because I don't want it to interfere with LBins on LB's channel, because that's a very important show to me. And hopefully LB, because I like doing it. Yeah, so first half, no complaints. Should have been a couple goals up, a bit better finishing, and we get the job done inside that first 45 minutes, no problem. Bournemouth are a decent team. They've been in a bad run of form, but their manager is very good tactically, and they have a couple of good players. No disrespect to Bournemouth, but they do have 2 or 3 good players and good technicians and decent actual footballers. So they were always going to come back into the game. Second half started off fine for like the first 5 minutes. From like minute 50 to 60, Bournemouth had a couple of... Excuse me. Bournemouth had a couple of decent chances when we lost control of the ball, either through a sloppy pass or our players just not picking up the right positions when we had the ball in respect of our rest defence, or overly committing bodies forwards. So Bournemouth had a couple chances on the counter-attack, and also just a couple chances with the ball as well. So the warning signs were there. As I say, 1 to 3 half-decent chances for Bournemouth from like minute 50 to 60. At the same time, City also had their fair share of chances in that period, because Bournemouth were coming out a little bit more, and that obviously means that there's more space to capitalise on in behind. So it's give and take. Bournemouth had to come out, but at the same time, that meant it was a little bit better for City in respect of capitalising on that space. What we needed in that moment was an emphasis on control. The first half, brilliant in respect to control. We needed that and then some in the second half, in terms of when we got the ball back, we had to make sure we were making the right decisions and the right actions. We had to make sure we weren't turning over the ball. It was fine to secede a little bit of control without the ball, as we did last season. I know I'm talking about Bournemouth here, but if you think of Real Madrid last season, Bayern Munich last season, these really big games, City didn't go out to totally dominate those games in terms of possession and keeping control on the game. However, when they did get the ball back, they counter-attacked with a vengeance, and they were very measured in their counter-attacks, and they made sure to not give away the ball. That's what we needed. So in the 60th minute, when Pep Guardiola made some subs, that was the correct decision, because the game was slightly going away from us. We needed a bit more control on the pitch, so that when we lost the ball inevitably, we could then, as I say, take our time with our counter-attacks, because Bournemouth were going to leave even more space for us to exploit. We needed to bring on a Jack Grealish, a Rico Lewis, and Oscar Bob. That profile of player had to come on. So when I saw that Jeremy Doku was coming onto the pitch, and then I saw that Kevin De Bruyne was coming onto the pitch, if you would have told me that the game that we were playing away against Bournemouth and the score was 1-0, I would have assumed that we were chasing a lead, that we were chasing the game, that we were 1-0 down, because those are the sorts of players you bring on if it's a tight game where you need a goal and the opposition are camping, they are doing a low block, and you need a more direct sort of player on the pitch. So I've no clue why Doku was brought on. I've no clue why De Bruyne was brought on. Those were some bizarre substitutions, and this isn't a case of hindsight's a thing. If you were here on my watch-along, you would see me in the chat communicating and going, why, oh why is Doku coming on? This is so bizarre. whilst he isn't bad in terms of, losing the ball, in recent weeks and months, he actually has been pretty bad. His dribble success rate before he joined City was, I can't remember what it was exactly. I think it was around 60%, which was like, top 1% in Europe. That's dropped significantly. We're talking, it's more like 40 to 50% now. So every time he engages in a take-on or a dribble, there's a 50-50 chance he loses the ball, which, and even more so that he loses the ball. When you need total control in a game, that is not the correct decision. I was staggered that was the decision that Guardiola made. I had no idea what was going on there, to be honest. There was some really weird individual moments where, and it was late in the game, but it was like the 91st minute. Doku had the chance to go into the corner and maybe draw a foul or two, maybe win a corner or two, and eat up the time. Because there was 6 minutes added time, so you could have easily eaten up 1 or 2 minutes. And instead he decides to try to take on his man and go around the outside, and eventually it just leads to a goal kick. There was another time where he was trebled up on. There were 3 opposition players on him at one point. And all he had to do was go back, play a safe ball. He tried to dribble past all 3 of them at once, and obviously lost the ball. It was really weird from Doku. I'm not saying he was terrible, because there was one moment where he got back, tracked back, and he stopped a counter-attack. It was really good. We need more of that. I just thought that was a really weird substitution. And same with De Bruyne. De Bruyne was not good when he came on. I didn't think there was any need to bring him on, to be honest. He's carrying like a little niggle in his hamstring. Is it worth it? We don't need his sort of profile on the pitch. And he kept losing the ball as well. And he had the chance to kill the game at the end. Foden ball into him, and all he's got to do is hit it first time, far post. He just takes a touch and the chance goes away from him. His touches were way off, so Twifty, absolutely. Are you going to do a preview for the Luton game? Great end today stream. Well, it may be, I mean, I don't really do previews, because I don't personally see much... I don't like predictive analysis, if that makes sense, because a lot of it's guesswork. But maybe we can talk about it. We'll talk about the long-term season, that's for sure. Joshua, shout out Josh, says Doku's inexperience didn't go to the corner flag was poor. I agree. That's where Grealish is good at winning fouls, 100%. Ram says that Bournemouth have many dangerous positions. The final product is shit. Kovacic is part of our best team this season. Yeah, Kovacic was fantastic yesterday, and that was the thing, because Kovacic came off for De Bruyne, didn't he? I'm pretty sure. And Kovacic was winning fouls in times where we needed to slow the game down. That was genuinely genuinely is worth its weight in gold. Like, Grealish wins lots of fouls, and people are like, oh, what good is that? That is priceless. Genuinely, in games where you need to slow things down and control the tempo, winning fouls is worth its weight in gold. And Kovacic was doing that. De Bruyne came on. I have no idea why that was the case. To compound that, Alvarez came on, which isn't necessarily an issue, but he came on for Haaland, who wasn't having a good game from a finishing perspective, but he was a brilliant outball, because Bournemouth were advancing even further, pressing even higher, putting even more pressure on our midfield. What we needed in those moments was a safe, long ball to evade the press while simultaneously having a decent chance of keeping hold of possession. If you've got a tall striker up front who's very good at hold-up play, that is what they will offer you. You can call it Route 1 if you want. The fact of the matter is, in those moments, it works. And we took Haaland off, and suddenly that outball no longer exists. And Alvarez is on the pitch, and Alvarez... Not necessarily his fault, because he was brought on in the game where he had no real... He shouldn't have been brought on because of that outball situation. But then, as I say, there was no outball then. And Alvarez was largely redundant in the game. And Sai's got a very good point here. When team plays man-for-man, Haaland's essential. Yes, and we've seen that against Brighton. Like, if you remember, like, the game against Brighton last season, a conversation was had with like a Haaland/Ederson and Guardiola. And Pep said, just do a long ball to Haaland because they're going man-for-man. Haaland will beat his centre-back every time, basically. And that's what we did, and that's how we scored like the opening goal. So to go away from that was a really weird tactical decision from Pep, in my opinion. I thought he got the lineup right. I thought, given the injury situation of Grealish, I thought it was a really clever move to play Nunes left wing. I had no idea he could even play there. So I'll obviously give him credit for the first half, but simultaneously, I've got to question what he was playing at with those substitutions in that second half. All that did was take the game away from us. And it's sort of a recurring theme this season of Pep making weird decisions. I'm not. Yeah, I don't really have an explanation for that, because someone suggested on Twitter that maybe Haaland is because of his injury. That's why he was brought off for like 20 minutes to go. Haaland's played like the last full 90 minutes in the last 4 games in a row, so he's clearly not injured. It's clearly not an issue. So that was clearly like a tactical decision to bring on Alvarez for Haaland, and it just didn't work. In the same way that it was tactical to bring on Doku. Again, I thought that was weird. If you need to take off Nunes because you're concerned about his defensive work, bring on Oscar Bob. He's fantastic. That vital 2-3 saves by Ederson, one off the line, was unbelievable. Yet again, Ederson coming in clutch with the goalkeeping. And but for the efforts of Ederson, and but for the genuinely brilliant individual defending of Ake, Akanji, Stones, and Ruben Diaz, we definitely do not win that game, because we should have conceded a goal in that last 20 minutes. And that back four kept getting put under unnecessary pressure after pressure by the midfield and the attack, by giving the ball away, or sometimes not even tracking back properly. Not picking up the right positions on occasion. And as I say, but for their brilliant individualism and their brilliant defending, we definitely can see, like, Ruben Diaz, fantastic blocking at crucial moments. Yeah, Diaz blocks with fire, says Twister. Yeah, Akanji showing again why he, for me, should be our starting right back every single game, if possible. He's such a better defender than Kyle Walker. John Stones is our best defender. Ake Sai says it wasn't that good. His opposition winger did give him some grief on occasion. However, most of the time he was reading the play really well. He was snuffing out danger before it even started. As much as I love Gvardiol, you guys all know I love Gvardiol. And for me, it's a 50-50 between who starts, between him and Ake. I think it depends on the game. There's no doubting that Ake in those wide areas, 1v1 defending, is sometimes a borderline genius. And that's a strong word to use, but I don't think it's unfair, given how he consistently locks up his opposition winger. So it's a weird game to come away from, and that's why there's been a weird reaction to it online. I feel like lots of people are frustrated with the performance. Other people are just happy with the win. I'd be interested for you guys to let me know in the chat now, which side of the argument are you on? Are you on the side of a win is a win, the 3 points is all that matters, we will click into gear? Or are you on the side of the performance was worrying and we don't seem to be clicking? So Twister says not happy. So maybe put happy, not happy, basically, depending on which side of the argument you fall on. For me, I'm personally in the not happy camp. I'm not content with that performance. I'm not content with the fact that we won, that we got the 3 points. No. I was happier last season when we drew against Forest, because that performance was one of the best games I've ever seen from City that season. And it was a continuation of the dominant displays I'd seen in the previous games. And that was like a freak of a result. And I was like, right, I know we've drawn the game, but I'm buzzing with that performance. If we play like that from now until the end of the season, we win the Premier League. We did play like that from there until the end of the season, and we won the treble. So that draw was even though it was a draw, I was more actually really happy with the performance. I'm so not happy with this performance. First half, brilliant, perfect. But second half, no, not able to kill off the game. And as I say, the weird subs just compounded the issue for me. Before I talk about the longer term impact of that, let's just briefly go to some good moments. Let's talk about some really good individual displays. Terrell's in the optimism camp. Our peaking point is coming. I hope you're right, Terrell. By the way, guys, I am doing a watch-along for the League Cup final. It's a watch-along you will not find anywhere else on YouTube. We do these all the time on my channel. We've been doing them since City's Champions League final defeat against Chelsea 3 years ago. We are doing a drunk watch-along, a drinking game watch-along. You don't have to play along. You can just sit back and watch me get more and more inebriated and drunk. They are really fun streams, guys. They're really unique. I don't see anyone else doing them in the football space, like a specific drinking game. If you want to get involved with alcoholic drinks or non-alcoholic drinks, or you just want to watch, it's your choice. But yeah, if you want to join me for the League Cup final tonight, I'd highly recommend it. If you enjoy my content. Anyway, if you don't enjoy my content, probably don't turn up. But if you do, you will really enjoy it, I promise you. It'll be like, how our watch-alongs always are, except with me drinking. The rules will be revealed when we start the stream. If alcohol is haram in your religion or country, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to play along. You can just watch me, or you can just play with water or orange juice. Of course, it's allowed on YouTube. So I've been doing it for years, so it better be, because I've been doing it for years. They are really fun. I say there's no pressure to take part if you just want to watch me. I've got plenty of Muslim followers who just like to watch, and it's fun. Well, if you miss start, don't worry about it. It's all good. So that's to make sure to join me later for that. Really unique, fun stream. So before we touch on that, the long term, let's talk about. We do it on Twitch as well, Si. So unless I'm breaking terms of service, I've been doing it on there for years as well. Let's talk about the individual good performances now. We touched on the defence. John Stones. Not only was he brilliant defensively, his work on the ball in midfield was ridiculous. Faris, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, becoming a Nabinho. If you aren't subscribed already, guys, make sure to do it. So you always stay tuned for whenever we go live. Yeah, John Stones was everywhere. He was fantastic. He was getting into so many dangerous areas. He mentioned in his post-match interview that he was able to find those extra spaces because of their man-to-man pressing. And his final ball on occasion wasn't quite good enough, but he was getting into some really dangerous areas. And if the ball was just slightly better, then it would have been like a cricket score. Because he, as I say, he was just picking up so many dangerous areas. He wasn't being tracked because he was totally destroying Bournemouth's man-to-man pressing. Such an intelligent footballer. And that is no disrespect to Akanji, who is obviously we've touched on in my starting 11, but that is the difference in quality in respect of the John Stones role between Akanji and John Stones. They are worlds apart. There is no defender in world football who can do what John Stones does. No one. People want to chat to me about even like Gvardiol's ball playing, which is fine. Arsenal defenders, Liverpool defenders. No one can do it. No one can do that. I'm very convinced of that. To that level, anyway. John Stones is a unicorn and unique in that respect. And if he's able to stay, he's got to stay fully fit from now until the end of the season. We've not talked about Phil Foden really in this whole stream, but he was again a shout out for man of the match. Brilliant. What a surprise, guys. What a surprise. You play Doku, you play Foden in midfield, you get the win. I've updated the spreadsheet for Foden and his touches and what that means in terms of City's results. And when Foden's played in midfield, only one game has not resulted in a win. And that was the Crystal Palace game at home, which was a really weird game like the Dying Embers where we gave away a penalty in stupid circumstances. Outside of that, every time he's played in midfield, and also the Super Cup final, but again, Cup final, bit of an outlier. Outside of that, we've won every single game. And again, fantastic. Brilliant. Foden, fantastic. I run out of words for... I feel like I praise him every single stream, so people think I've got a crush on him. It's hard to not talk about him because he is so good. And he was fantastic yet again. The balance of that midfield. If you don't play a striker there and you play Foden there, what a surprise. City looks so much better, so much sharper. And the midfield looks like it's midfielding. Kovacic, his best performance in the City shirt. He just does his role so well and keeps the simple things simple. And when he does that, he rarely makes mistakes. And it always leads to City just dominating the play and creating chances, not necessarily directly through Kovacic in the most cases, although he did do it yesterday with his ball over the top, but certainly he facilitates others to create around him, allows Rodri to be a bit more advanced. I think maybe yesterday allowed Stones to be a bit more advanced as well. Nunes, little cameo at left wing, but I thought he had a good game. Bernardo, less good, but he was fine. Haaland, we've talked about the finishing, not good. We know it was bad finishing, but some of the best link-up and hold-up play I have seen from him in a City shirt. He was dropping very deep on occasion, very, very deep, and he was basically never losing the ball, which was fantastic to see. That he's now adding this string to his bow. We have around 100 people watching the stream, guys. First of all, thank you so much for joining. We're on 67 likes, which is a really good ratio of viewers to likes. If we could could we hit 75? That'd be really helpful. Thank you so much, guys. And again, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully these streams continue to grow as we keep doing them. So there were some really good individual performances. We've touched on the bad performances. I don't think the subs played well when they came on. We've touched on why. Weird decision to bring them on in the first place. Say Sais's Kovacic was immense. I totally agree. Rodri's Rodri. Rodri is just unreal. He's unreal. And you guys know, you'll know who LB is. He's got this obsession, quite rightly so, with Rodri's yellow card situation. He has definitely, I commented on one of LB's tweets, he's definitely been told to chill out on the yellow cards because he's not had one in like 6 or 7 Premier League games in a row. He was on like this really scary run. 7 yellows. We were even having conversations about should he intentionally get some bookings now so that he will be available for the Liverpool, Arsenal, United games, etc. Twisty says it here, his discipline is class. And again, you could tell in the Bournemouth game so many times, particularly late on, he wanted to bring down the player, but he didn't. And he got back into position. And maybe that's the thing as well. Maybe Rodri felt the need to bring the players down when we were playing a defence which was frail. Maybe now, in addition to the conversation and the reality of getting closer to that suspension, maybe the added variable is that in the same way that a defence trusts a very good keeper, a midfield can trust a very good defence. So Rodri knows he doesn't have to bring the player down because he's right, well, if he goes out to the right to Akanji, he's going to snuff out the chance 1v1. If he tries to go central, Ruben Diaz are going to intercept that. If he tries to go in behind, Stones will read that play. If he tries to dribble past Ake, he got no chance. That's a different situation to I've got Kyle Walker at the back. I've got Gvardiol coming back from left wing. Can I trust Walker to see him onto his weak foot and put the tackle in, or is he just going to, as we saw against Newcastle and Chelsea, just show him onto his stronger right foot? Maybe that's also an added factor. 100% Sai, yeah. And Rodri's spoken about this. Rodri has spoken about the fact that this season he's now able to play a bit more advanced because he knows he's got Kovacic next to him. And 6 games before the reset. Yeah, so it now means that bar some ridiculous circumstances, he will be available for this immense run-in that's coming. Hopefully, if it keeps going, it will just reset and this will be a non-point. But it is good to see that is now like a factor out of our brain. Kova has to be a starter, says Faris. Certainly if De Bruyne isn't playing, he would definitely be my next midfield option and choice, if you can't have De Bruyne there, then you obviously want Foden in the midfield, and if you want Foden in the midfield, it makes sense to play someone like Kovacic in there. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Rodri is the bookies player of the year. If, in my opinion, Foden has been better than Rodri this season, I can totally understand why he would be the bookies' favourite, because if you don't watch every single City game, you won't quite appreciate what Foden is doing outside of the highlights reel and the package, because Foden is also just adding so much control and balance to the team, like when he drops deep as well. And for me, it's Foden, but I can appreciate why people would say Rodri. And also this stat is insane. Rodri, nice profile picture, by the way, Austin. Rodri's been unbeaten for 57 games. That is ridiculous. Ridiculous. I don't really get the Rico Lewis situation. We touched on it with the subs. He should have come on, in my opinion, instead of Doku or Alvarez or De Bruyne. I think maybe if you want a bit more, if you have to take Kovacic off for whatever reason, bring on Rico Lewis. He's still young, so I've not got an issue in terms of like his minutes being managed, but I do think that in some instances he just should be playing because he is that good and he very rarely loses the ball. He's a very secure option, is Rico Lewis. Should we now touch on, unless anyone wants to touch on any other individual players, shall we now touch on maybe the final topic I want to tackle? The sort of longer term of Man City's season as we are edging closer and closer towards the final match week, particularly over the shadow and the context of Arsenal battering Newcastle at home, which on paper could have been a tricky fixture. We only won against Newcastle 1-0, for example. Newcastle and Liverpool, our two title rivals this season, have been tearing apart their opposition in recent games. We've scored 3 goals in the last 3 games. They've scored 15 apiece, something like that. Something is wrong at City. A lot of it can be put down, in my opinion, to and I'm not going to blame injuries. Because the teams have been available there. So I'm going to frame it more as team selection and misprofiling of players or not utilising players properly. Because even when Stones has been fully fit, he hasn't. There were times where he wasn't started in those moments. 3 goals from same 1 shots. Is that true, Omar? Gosh. So a lot of it, in my opinion, does stem from the fact that we have been, for the majority of the season, playing a striker in midfield. At times, we have been playing Akanji as John Stones. And we have been misusing Doku. I'm not going to blame the individual players. Oh, and also Walker has been starting basically every single game as well. And we all know that that is not ideal, bar a very specific structure to allow him to thrive in. So I can't blame the individual players because I don't think it's really their fault. In the same way that I would applaud Guardiola when he wins the title and wins trophies and wins football games, I've also got to, I think it's only fair to point the finger at Pep for, in my opinion, what is a severe underperformance this season. Before the season started, I think the vast majority of football fans would have not only predicted City to win the league, but to win the league at least 1 game before the season was over, for example. But we have played ourselves into a position whereby we now might need to win at Anfield, which, let's be honest, isn't happening. We have got to beat Arsenal at City, which is going to be incredibly hard. We've got to go away and win at Spurs. We've still never scored a Premier League goal at Spurs' new stadium. We've got to still host Man United. I know they've got injury issues, but that's still tricky. We've got to host Aston Villa. There are some very tricky fixtures coming up. Now, I was having this thought experiment and this argument with myself last night, because I'm a weirdo and I like to... because Mrs. Nobbins was out with her friends last night, so I was left to my own devices, and what I do is I sit on my chair sometimes and just think about football and and weird future scenarios, because I'm a freak like that. So then I can discuss it with you guys and hopefully discuss interesting topics. If we live in a world where every Man City player from now to the end of the season is fit, Gvardiol is currently our only injured player, and he's back in like a week or 2. So let's live in a world where everyone is available and fully fit. We can definitely still win the Premier League title. Because we've only seen that team once, and that was against Copenhagen. And even then, Akanji wasn't on the pitch. And even then, it was only for 20 minutes because Grealish got taken off. But in that period, I know it was only Copenhagen. Only. They did beat Man United. Very good football, I thought. And it was really promising to see. And it was what I thought it was going to see. We had a shade of that in the first half against Bournemouth. So there is hope in my head that if everyone can stay fit, and if that team gets played in the majority of the games, particularly the big ones, from now until the end of the season, we can definitely win the Premier League. Because why don't we look the same team as, you know, when we figured out the treble winning system last season? Because that treble winning team's not played like once. Obviously, Gundogan's left, but outside of that, if we just replace Gundogan with one player, that team has not seen the light of day outside of 20 minutes against Copenhagen. So there is still hope for me that the team will be fully fit, will be available for the most part, and that will in turn lead to the midfield being fluid as it was in the first half. That will in turn lead to Haaland maybe clicking in terms of his chances. That will lead to other players contributing. And that's the thing, it can't, the finishing responsibility can't just be at the door of Erling Haaland. We lost a lot of goals with Gundogan and Mahrez. Other players do need to step up. Foden's done that. But we do need other players to contribute in respect of output. It can't just be Haaland. I love Grealish. I never judge him on goals and assists, but he's the sort of player who now needs to step up and maybe be that guy. Foden's done it. If Haaland's not doing it, someone else has got to do it. Win ugly indeed. KDB as well. His goals have to come. Hello, Daniel. Yesterday's game was the perfect example of why Grealish is put 100%. We've got to have him fully fit. If Edson, Diaz, Stones, Kanji, Grealish, etc. start most league games, we win the league. If they don't, we won't. Yeah, and Chris, I think it basically comes down to that. That is the hope I'm clinging on to. I do truly still think that if that team is available and ready to go, then there's not many teams who on paper are better than us. The issue is that, first of all, you've got to assume that they do stay fit. But secondly, we've, outside of that brief moment against Copenhagen and ideas of what that could be in the first half against Bournemouth, we've not actually seen that team enough this season to make a reasoned conclusion on whether they will be up and at it and able to play to the same levels as last season. So there is still a big question mark. But of course, if we are able to even hit a similar level to the end of last season, because we are now at that stage, guys. In fact, it's a little bit later in the process. By this time last season, we had clicked. And we'd started to see the performances, and we started to see the dominance of City. We haven't yet seen that yet. So if we can see that clicking soon, then we probably do win the Premier League, but it's a big if at this point. And sadly, we've only got ourselves to blame in respect of putting ourselves into this position, that really bad run where we drew against Liverpool, drew against Chelsea, drew against Spurs, drew against Palace, lost against Villa. That really weird run has killed our points tally, and that's why it's so frustrating. Science says, if Pep gets this right and makes us tick at the right moment of the season, I'll name my first kid Pep. Josh asks, what would be your best starting 11 for the rest of the season? So, assuming everyone's fully fit, it's the treble-winning team. So, it's Edison. It's, we'll do the 3-2 build-up. Akanji right centre-half. Diaz central centre-half. Ake / Gvardiol left centre-half, depending on the opponent. Let's say Ake for argument's sake. Rodri and Stones ahead of them. Grealish on the left. Bernardo left central midfield. Don't worry, don't panic. Haaland up top. De Bruyne right central midfield. Foden right wing. But not as a touchline winger, as he was playing against Newcastle when De Bruyne came on. Lots of rotations between him and De Bruyne. So it means that De Bruyne can do his dangerous crossing from the right wing. Foden can still influence play from the midfield. So I'm not just shunting him out to the right. I'm getting both De Bruyne and Foden into the midfield through rotation. If it's a game against an easy opponent, swap Bernardo and Foden to just play Foden, De Bruyne. If it's a harder game, swap Bernardo and Foden. So it's Bernardo in the middle, Foden rotating out wide with De Bruyne. That, in my opinion, is our best team. And it technically, no, not Walker right wing, 3-2 build up. So Stones in the Stones role. So De Bruyne and Foden, again, as we saw against Newcastle, when De Bruyne came on, rotating, being very fluid. So it's not just Foden's a touchline winger. That's in my opinion, that team is our best team and it wins us the Premier League. But we've got to see it quickly and we need to see it clicking quickly, particularly for this crunch time. Let's very briefly look at City's fixtures. Because these fixtures coming up are terrifying. So we've got an FA Cup game against Luton away. That's fine. There will be... Luton aren't easy at all, but at the end of the day, it's an FA Cup game, so I'm not going to be too concerned about that. In terms of the other games, we have United at home, who are in an injury crisis. That is a perfect opportunity to springboard and properly commence this season and properly announce that we haven't gone anywhere. And look, Arsenal, Liverpool, you might be winning your games impressively, but we are still here. We're still fighting for this title, as Kevin Keegan once said. Everyone should be fully fit for that game. Perfect springboard to put in a good performance. Also, a morale boost beating your derby rival. They are weakened. We should be beating them and beating them well. Then we play 3 days later. We play Copenhagen. Thankfully, we have a 2-goal lead, so we can't rest everyone, but we can have a decent amount of rest. That then goes into Anfield, and that is why we need the springboard. We've got to have that momentum going into Anfield because we must not lose that game. That is a must not lose. It might even turn out to be a must win. I doubt we win at Anfield, considering we just don't win there. But that's certainly a must not lose. We then go away to Brighton, and again, guys, I'll repeat, this is why we need that momentum. Away against Brighton, home against Arsenal, a must win. Home against Villa, away against Palace, and home against Luton, a little bit of a respite potentially, but then away against Spurs. Even away against Forest is not going to be easy. Thankfully, we have a relatively favourable final 3 games. Home against Wolves, you'd expect us to win that. Away against Fulham, not easy, you expect us to win that. Home against West Ham, you expect us to win that. So from now until basically the 27th of April, we've got to be borderline perfect. We've done it before. But as I've mentioned a few times this stream, this season feels a little bit different. That's why I'm nervous. But if everyone can be fully fit and available, there is every opportunity, there is every chance, every opportunity, we can do it. But we must not be shoehorning in a striker. We must not be playing a direct winger when we need control. We must not facilitate a defender who is a net negative going forwards and defensively. We must not try to misprofile Akanji as a John Stones player, or Foden as Bernardo, or Foden as a touchline winger. The good thing is that, injuries aside, those are all easy fixes. Easy fixes. You just don't play Alvarez in midfield. You just don't play Foden out wide. You just don't play Akanji in midfield. You just don't play Walker. These are easy fixes. It's just whether Pep makes what is, in my opinion, the correct decision. And that's going to sound quite arrogant. Oh, do you think you know more than Guardiola? Obviously not. But again, just because he's the expert, that doesn't mean he's a god. That doesn't mean he's perfect. He has made mistakes this season. He made mistakes last night. He's got to be flawless from now until the end of the season. The players have to be flawless. At the same time, we also need to hope that Liverpool and Arsenal drop at least 2 points outside of games against us. They've got to drop some further points, because I doubt we're not going to win every single game to the end of the season. So we need them to do us a favour by dropping some points as well. Win better for Gvidal and Stones. Colby, preaching to the choir here, Colby. You're preaching to the converted. Totally agree. Jazz says, happy winning, but I feel right now we are a one-half team. We need, if that first half can be replicated, fine. Defense seems so much better after the Chelsea game. Attack is worse. Yeah, the defense has been decent in recent games on an individual level, especially when that team has played. People mentioned Kanji was taught in vertebral because of Stone's injuries. Why do you think Rico wasn't? Josh, I don't know. The Rico one, there is a physicality situation. He is frail, so he's easy to shove off the ball. But at the same time, I think that's worth the risk, honestly, rather than a Kanji who's not as quick-minded in those moments. Dan says the only upside I see is that Arsenal, Liverpool are playing at their peak, whereas we still have several more gears. And again, Daniel, that's what we've been talking about in the stream, isn't it? That's the hope, that we find that gear and we find that level. But we've got to find it sooner rather than later. Now, it needs to happen. It should have happened yesterday. It should have happened against Chelsea. Despite that winning run, we still weren't really performing to brilliant levels. So even though we haven't lost a game since Aston Villa, it's like December last year, it's not good enough. And that sounds really like whingy and whiny and arrogant. But if you want to win the title, given the context of that bad run, it's not good enough. The performances also need to match the results of winning all those games. And that United game is a perfect springboard. They won't have Højlund, they won't have Martinez, they won't have Luke Shaw. We, on the other hand, bar any new injuries, will have everyone fully fit. We are at home, we are better than them, we have no injuries compared to their injuries. They've just lost at home against Fulham, for Christ's sake. If we don't beat them and beat them well, I don't know what to say, but we should beat them well. And that, as I say, perfect springboard. Take a shot every time Doku tries a trick and gets pocketed. Speaking of shots, guys, drinking game, League Cup final, watch along. Make sure to tune in for just before kickoff. I think we'll start the stream 15 minutes beforehand just so I can get everything ready. I started the stream slightly later than I wanted to. So make sure to come back to my channel if you want to watch me watch the game, analyze it, but also chat with you guys and also have some drinks. It will be fun, I promise you. Where's the Treble documentary? I think it's coming to Netflix, isn't it, Twisty? So we've been talking for around an hour, and that's basically my thoughts on the stream. That's my thoughts on the match. Good first half. More of that, please. Second half, we were always going to lose a little bit of control because Bournemouth were always going to come back into the game, but the right decisions need to be made in respect of substitutions. Otherwise, we ain't winning anything. It was so lovely to see that we were vindicated. Oh, look. You know what? I feel like Mo is like a... I'm going to say something really sappy here. Mo is genuinely like a father figure. He's so cute. I love Mo. What was I saying? Mo distracted me. How dare you? What was I saying? Guys, help me. What was I talking about? Come on. Come on, people. What was I saying? First half was good. Second half, bad subs. No, it's gone out of my brain. I can't remember what I was saying. Sorry, guys. I was going to end the stream on something really wise. Really wise, but there we go. No, I know that, but then before that, I was going to make a wise final point about Man City, but I can't remember what that was anymore. I do this a lot, man. I don't listen to... That's my moderator, by the way. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. We need to beat United. Yes, we need to beat United. Springboard. Perfect situation. We've got to make the right decisions. Second half. Yeah, we were always going to lose control against Bournemouth. So that, which isn't necessarily an issue, but we've got to make the right decisions in respect to subs. We've got to make the right decisions in respect to starting lineups. And that comes from the manager, obviously. So that is the state of play. If I remember what I was definitely going to say, I'll maybe like go back. I'll maybe go back. That another reason to join me for the drunk watch-along drinking game League Cup final. Will Nobbins remember what he was trying to say? Tune in next time and find out. It's like Dragon Ball Z and those endings. But we'll also we don't just have to talk about the League Cup final. We can also talk, if you guys have got any questions about City. If you've got any questions or thoughts about City, I love, you don't just have to super chat for your comments to come on the screen and for me to talk to you. Super chats are obviously lovely, but I do like to just engage with you guys, so don't feel like you have to super chat to have your comment read or put on stream or to have your topic discussed. So as I say, make sure to join me for that. We'll be going live 15 minutes beforehand, so 3:15. I'm going to get my beers ready and that sort of thing. I'll also explain to Mrs. Nobbins that I'm probably going to be quite loud. I'm sure she'll love that because she's ill at the moment. Thank you so much for joining me, lads. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Really hope you're enjoying these post-mortems. Leave a like on the stream to let me know that you are enjoying them, and I will keep doing them for you. That's the way to tell me that you want more of these. Leave a like on the stream, and we will do more. I'll see you guys in the League Cup final watch-along. Goodbye, guys. Get the drinks in, or watch me get the drinks in. 3:15, be there.